Welcome. I am Darth Vadad. Join me as I remember things I loved when I was younger and still love today. In the early to mid-1980s, tabletop strategy and role-playing, or RPG, games enjoyed something of a golden age of diversity and popularity. Although Dungeons & Dragons was the top dog in the field, hobby shops stocked a variety of games, such as Star Frontiers or Marvel Superheroes. One game in particular that captured my imagination and attention was based on the original Star Trek TV series. Starfleet Battles, or SFB, focused on starship combat. I was first introduced to the game while on a camping trip with the scout troop I belonged to. Some of the older members of the troop would play the game by lantern light at a picnic table once most of the day's activities were done. With the glow and crackle of a campfire in the background, us young 6th, 7th, and 8th graders watched while the high school kids alternated between concentrating on plans and tactics and whooping it up when their starships clashed in simulated battles. With real stars shining overhead, it seemed like the best thing to do with what little energy we had left before shuffling off to our tents and sleeping bags. On a map made of hexagons, players used small square cardboard counters to represent combat units like the Federation Heavy Cruiser and the Klingon D-7 battlecruiser, or the Romulan War Eagle. These basic tools helped track the movement of ships, but the real core of the game happened on photocopied energy allocation forms and Ships Systems Display Sheets, or SSDs. Depending what ship a player controlled, they had to make careful use of its limited energy resources to power movement and weapons fire. Managing these and other ship systems was a balancing act that could determine the fate of your ship or team. Each turn in the game took 32 impulses, or fractions of a turn, during which a player's planning would result in the action of maneuvering and attacking with their ship. When damage was dealt, players would cross out squares on their SSDs as shields fell and internal systems were destroyed. Eventually, ship counters would leave the board until one side claimed victory, and bragging rights until the next night's game, or the next camping trip. Once I graduated from playing with borrowed photocopies to buying my own box sets of the Commander's edition of the game, I would search local hobby shops for SSD books to supplement my potential fleets. There were a lot of ships to collect from several different races and territories. The basic game started with the Federation and Klingons, but there were also the Romulans and their reptilian enemies, the Gorn, the humanoid cats called the Kzinti and Lyrans, who fought like, well, cats, and oddball aliens known as the Hydrans and Tholians. While many of these groups were allied with or against one another on two major sides of the general war, the Orion pirates were loyal to no one, and the Interstellar Concordium, or ISC, tried to force peace on everyone else. Most enigmatic of all were the Andromedans, invaders from another galaxy who could dominate a battlefield with a single huge ship. Remember, this was several years before Star Trek The Next Generation came along and introduced the Borg. By the time I had collected as many game books as I could get my hands on, the older kids I knew who played it had finished high school and left the troop, and few of the younger kids coming in had any interest in such a slow-paced pastime. By then, video games were widely available on multiple console platforms, and my days of paper and pencil gaming were all but over. Some years later, I rediscovered SFB when an online video game version called Starfleet Command came out. I could finally interact with players from all over the world and revisit the space battles of those bygone days. But even the Starfleet Command series was relatively short-lived. Despite the constantly shifting gaming market, you can still buy new copies of Starfleet Battles and play the game the old-fashioned way if you're so inclined. Amarillo Design Bureau's website at starfleetgames.com includes an online shop and enough information to get you started. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, tap the like button and subscribe for more Darth Vadad videos, or consider joining my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DarthVadad. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.